He said, oh, no, 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 no. You're not going to play g4 anymore. I'm going to make sure you don't play g4 anymore. The moment in which the pawn structure changes are the critical, are very important moments in the game. Okay, they're not tactically critical; they're strategically critical. So, what do I mean by that? Pawn structure dictates play. Pawn structure determines where your pieces go. Pawn structure is pawns are the soul of chess, as mentioned, by many historical figures. But it's really true. For example, even if your pawn structure is no good, even if your pawn structure is no good, it's still telling you what you need to do in the game. For example, if your pawn structure is all isolated and split up, it still tells you what you need to do. The pawn structure is yelling at you and saying, "Don't go into an end game because you're gonna lose the end game." So your pawns are telling you what should be happening in the game, no matter what. What does f4 do? It prevents the move pawn to e5, which would have allowed black to get rid of their backwards pawn. White said, how about we have mutually backward pawns? I will go f4. I will not allow you to get rid of yours. I will give myself one, and we'll call it even. Right? Okay. I don't like that move, I should say. I don't think the move f4 is a counter giving yourself your own back pawn. But very interesting. Okay. So in this position though, black was like, you don't have the central break anymore because you pushed your pawn. Your bishop's whiffing over here. How about I close that bishop out and cost you time into running backwards and doing that? And here, a very interesting moment happens because the king goes to h1, which to me is a clear signal that white has the right intentions. What are the right intentions? For white to play which move? Exactly. g4. And g4 would have been risky with the king on the g-file because of the moves rook to g6 in some fashion, whether we take first and then go or just go immediately. So white played king h1, and white wants to prepare in some way the move pawn to g4, which is correct. White should do that. Black played bishop to d6, which is fine. And here, white played a bad move because he wanted it all. White wanted it all. What should white play? I'll give you credit for two answers. But I think that white should play g4 or rook to g1. Absolutely. Without a doubt, those are the moves that need to be played one way or another. 100%. Because some of you were suggesting opening the queen's wing, right? By playing the move b3. First of all, b3 fails tactically. Because if you go b3, I trap your bishop. You close your bishop out. But b3 also is not a good move strategically either. So even if we promised one another that I wouldn't trap your bishop, right? We had like a pinky promise, please don't take my bishop, I'll, whatever. b3 is still not the right move for white because you're trying to make a pawn break on the side of the board where you have the least amount of space. That doesn't work out. and you're also going to give your opponents targets down the open c-file. So b3 is not your right break. It is a pawn break, but it's not the right side of the board. The right side of the board for white's break is the king side, where white is ready to operate. So g4 or rook to g1, we will accept those answers. White wanted it all, and white played the move rook to f3. Well, here's what white wanted. White was like, okay, why put this rook here when I could put this rook here and then play g4? Well, then Capablanca was saying to himself, you know, Giannatos is running out of ideas for his Thursday lectures, and I should give him some content, is what Capablanca said. So he said, let's give him some content on prophylactic measures. And then Capablanca called me, the time machine, and he said, Peter, I'm going to have a game for you on prophylactic play that you can show in your Thursday night chess ideas you must know, because you're going to start to run out of ideas. And so I am going to give you content, because Mr. Abraham Kupchik did not play the break he was supposed to play. And sadly for him, this has a great issue with it. So what did white play? What did black play here as a prophylactic measure against white's impending g4, rook g1, g4 combination of moves? What did the great Capablanca play here? He said, oh, no. You're not going to play g4 anymore. I'm going to make sure you don't play g4 anymore. You had your chance. You didn't do it. In fact, you had many ways to do it, but you blocked your queen. So you can't play g4, and your queen can't take my pawn on h5. I'm not going to allow you to go g4. So rook f1 was played. And Capablanca really made sure that white wasn't going to play g4 and played the beautiful move, rook to h6, which I like a lot. Basically, this move is just not happening. Like h3 and g4 is only going to hurt white. So here's the problem. If white doesn't have g4, breaking on the side of the board in which he has more space, or he had more space, then what's going to happen on the queen side as black starts to go boom, 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 and then he used that space on the queen side to open up the front on the queen side? Because, you know, if black can lock it down over here, black's going to be rolling on the queen side because we have all the space here. That's the key. So bishop to e1, g6. I love this because you're just fortifying the pawn chain, and this rook can always get back into play. It's not a big deal. And king f7. Again, there's no pawn break here. There's only one pawn break, and it's all on the queen side, which is where black has the space. And remember, white can never play the move b3 because that traps this poor bishop, this runaway bishop, on b5 after a6 and b5. So remember that white can't even try to break first, but white's not even ready to break on the queen side. White suffers from lack of space there. It wouldn't be a good idea. So white played queen e1. Black began the queenside operation to open up a frontier for the pieces here. And that's exactly what happened, little by little. And, okay, there's no pawn break here anymore, and black has initiated the necessary play on the queen side to open up lines for the major pieces. So everything's locked and blocked, but black is pursuing the pawn breaks on the queen side as to open up the position for the major pieces. And that's exactly what happens. I really like the move a4. It's not an advanced move, but it is a move that all of you should have in your brains, which is a4. Simple idea is just to break down the pawn chain with a3. And that follows the oldest principle in the book, which is you attack the pawn chain at its base. Attack the pawn chain at the base. The base of this pawn chain, if we wish to break it down, is the b2 pawn. And because pawns only move forward, the base is the most important, as every pawn protects one another forward. So if we can play a3, then we can destroy that pawn chain so easily. White can't play a3 himself because that would just lose material. So rook 3 onto f2, pawn a3, and it all falls down. b3, an attempt, but not going to really go too far. And, black having the space on the queen side means that black's pieces easily get to the queen side. White's pieces do not. And we're going to see that very shortly. So that's a pawn advantage for Capablanca, and he just kills him here. I love rook takes b3. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, come on. If last week's lesson was not the most valuable lesson you ever had in your life, I don't know what is. I didn't even intend to show it this way. The deeply placed, not passed pawn is becoming a passed pawn. I mean, shower me with gold coins for preparing you for this moment. Rook takes b3, making the not passed pawn a passed pawn. We spent a whole lecture on that. So if you're new, go back and watch last Thursday's lecture. Clearly, this happens all the time. All the time. So take, pawn to a2, and it's over. It's over. Resign. White resigned, as that not passed pawn became a passed pawn after rook takes b3. And not everything can be stopped here. And this looks so nasty because you can't block because of bishop a3. And bishop to a3 is coming no matter what. Another beautiful line is, like, let's say you play here. We could promote. This is really nice. And after trading, we could play your move, El Boss, bishop to b1, which is more effective here because there's no way to stop the queen. Hi, I'm Peter Giannatos, founder of the Charlotte Chess Center. If you enjoyed these videos, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to watch these videos live, be sure to follow us on Twitch.